You're listening to The Fix with Ryan Rothstein, live from the Prop Swap studios of AM 1490 Sports Betting Radio. Prop swap that ticket and cash in while the odds have improved. Once again, here's Ryan.
All right, welcome back to The Fix, live in the Prop Swap studios. Thanks again to Rich Q for jumping on board and opening up the show for us. It's a Wednesday show with a Friday feel. Christmas does not feel like it, to me at least, Friday. So I will be off. The Fix will be off tomorrow and Friday night. So we got to squeeze everything in here, and John McMullen joins us now for his nightly appearance on The Fix for your football fix. NFL Eagles Insider, SI.com, PhillyVoice.com, host of Extending the Play, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m., right here on 1490. All right, John, we have a lot of Eagles to get to, but you know I have to get your thoughts on the Sixers tonight.
Yeah, I enjoyed Sixers Twitter, which, Jalen Hurts called essentially social media rat poison today. Got to stay away from the rat poison.
The Sixers need to trade Carson Wentz.
I had to stay away from that rat poison. Obviously, they didn't play well, but they got the win. And it was really the bench, I think, more than anything. They kind of picked them up until the end. And you probably can't count on that. Can't count on that Shake Milton performance every night, but, hey, a win's a win.
Yeah, I talked over you there, but I joked saying, how ridiculous Sixers Twitter is. The Sixers need to trade Carson Wentz.
Yeah. I think Eagles Twitter is bad, and I still think it's bad. But when I check it and compare it to Sixers Twitter, it's not that bad. I've never seen anything like it. They are so bipolar. I've said it before. They're so hyped up before the season starts. Championship, here we come. And it's just, by the third quarter, this is the worst team in the history of the world. It is unbelievable.
I can't stand it. I've gone full heel on Twitter because I just love to twist the knife. I just love to mess with people on there because they're all ridiculous. So I just try and one-up them because it's entertaining. It's
one game.
It's one game.
It's the first game.
Right.
And they didn't play well, and, that's fine. But, look, they're pretty much the same team. They're going to be a good regular season team, and they're not built for the playoffs. So we got to see what they're able to do in season, trades. Hello, James Harden doing his best to get out of Houston. They got to build a team, and they don't have a team. They're talented enough to win a lot of regular season games, but they're not good enough to be a significant playoff contender. I don't think much has changed.
Not too much. Couple shooters in Seth Curry and Danny Green and Doc Rivers. So there's some change, but, I agree with you.
Well, yeah, I shouldn't say that. They have a better coach. And, Danny Green was terrible. He can't be that. He's got to be able to shoot the basketball. And even Seth Curry's got to be able to do it a little bit more consistently. But still, those are not the shooters you need. They're better than you had. So you're incrementally going in the right direction. At least the current regime seems to understand they have to build a team, but they haven't built that team yet, is my point.
No, I'm with you. And Johnny Mac and I will work in plenty of Sixers talk now that the NBA season is underway. But, all right, John, we have a full preview to get to, which is days away, the game is, but we're going to dive into it like it's a Friday night. So, first, I know it was a big Zoom day, so fill us in on who spoke and what stood out from today.
Everybody spoke, I think. It was a huge Zoom day. The biggest, obviously, would be the head coach and the quarterback. So, it is, I guess, still a big week when you look at what's going on in Washington more than anything else because, what's going on with Dwayne Haskins, very similar story to James Harden. He was fined. It'll be interesting. It doesn't look like the NFL is going to do anything as far as suspension or anything of that nature. So looks like he'll be able to play, but I don't know if that's that good to begin with for Washington. I guess it's better than Taylor Heineke. He had some first-team reps as well. Point I'm getting to, it doesn't look like Alex Smith is going to be able to play, and that's good for the Eagles because they need Washington to lose to Carolina. And Carolina, obviously, is not a good football team. And Christian McCaffrey's not going to play again, so that's not going to be helpful to them. But none of anything the Eagles do matters unless Washington loses that football game. And then we can start talking about if the Eagles are able to beat Dallas, potentially sets up a Week 17 all the marbles matchup with Washington. So as amazing as it sounds, one of the reasons I think Doug Peterson isn't going anywhere near all these discussions, whether it's his job status, Carson being moved, Jalen Hurts being the starter next season, he's not touching that until all the air is out of the playoff balloon, and it's not out yet.
No, certainly not out yet. Plenty of grievances that we need to air, by the way, too, before you part ways here at the top of the hour. All right, John, so start number 3 for Jalen Hurts. The defense has plenty of storylines as well with the decimated secondary. What can you tell us on both sides of the ball there, key matchups, anything that stands out? You can pick which side of the ball you want to start with.
Yeah, I mean, defensively, we kind of saw it last week against Arizona. I mean, they're up against it in the secondary, but Darius Slay is going to be back, so that will help dramatically. And they're going to need him because, hey, the one thing Dallas has is talented receivers. And since Andy Dalton has been back, they're at least capable. And you can make fun of the Dallas Cowboys, but hey, they're ahead of the Eagles. Remember, they're ahead of the Eagles in the standings. The Eagles are the last place team. So they've kind of calmed down some of their deficiencies offensively. And I would say the bigger issues for them are defensively at this point. But so getting Slay back, and it's going to be interesting. I think Michael Jacquet has earned the right to be the other starting outside corner, and that enables Nickel Roby-Coleman to go back to his slot position full time, which is where he's best. And then you're going to have Jalen Mills staying at safety, and Marcus Epps, I think, has earned the right to replace Rodney McLeod. But, Epps and Jacquet, it's not where the Eagles wanted to be, let's put it that way.
John, you wrote an interesting article on SI.com about Jacquet. If you want to give a quick overview of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird when somebody catches 9 balls for 169 yards, but I think everybody to a man was so impressed with Michael Jacquet against the Cardinals because he is an undrafted guy who had 51 snaps before that game in his entire career. He was cut at the end of training camp. He wasn't even on the team for the first 3 weeks. Then they brought him back to the practice squad. Then he got elevated. Now all of a sudden he not only looks like, as I said, a short-term starter, the Eagles need a second corner next season. And he's playing himself into that conversation because he is 6'1". He does offer a little bit of a different skill set the Eagles haven't had, and what everybody in the NFL is looking for. It's just long, lengthy quarters. Has tremendously long arms, and he bothers receivers because of that. So, your first question is, why didn't he get drafted? Because he's got the requisite athleticism, and the answer to that is he switched late. He was a receiver, and he didn't even start playing corner until his junior season in college. So he's raw. He's a work in progress, but, man, he's got a lot of physical skills. So he's one of those silver lining players that you've been forced to play and is starting to get into the conversation of being a contributor on this team.
Switching sides to the Cowboys real quick here, John. Is Tony Pollard the best Cowboys running back right now?
Yeah, he is. That's one of those things. It's the old age. People who don't value running backs at all, one of the reasons they don't, and they'll say, and to be honest, it's one of their stronger arguments, running backs burn out very quickly, and they burn out even more quickly when they get a lot of touches. And when Ezekiel Elliott was arguably the best running back in football, and he was, the Cowboys were giving it to him 350 times a season, sometimes more. And he looks washed, to be honest. He doesn't look like the same guy. And you can only point to that traffic, and then you start looking at it. Did the Cowboys waste the prime years of Ezekiel Elliott? That's how people who don't like the running back position will frame it. I certainly, my estimation is sort of the same as Jason Kelsey's when he went on that Mummers-like rant a couple weeks ago about winning football games. That's got to be the only priority. He didn't want to hear about tanking, anything of that nature. Cowboys were trying to win when Zeke was getting all those touches, and they won a lot of games. They didn't go where they wanted to, but my take is if you have a good running back, use him. And then when he's not, you got to move on. But that kind of defines the NFL. I mean, it moves quickly. There are certain positions, most notably quarterback, because of the way they've changed the game, and guys like Tom Brady can be effective, and Drew Brees can be effective into their 40s. Sometimes offensive linemen can play into their mid-30s pretty well. You got an Andrew Whitworth into his late 30s. That's kind of rare. You've seen how Jason Peters fell off the table this season. But generally, I mean, this is a league that moves really quickly. And if you got good players, you can't sit there and say, well, I'm not going to use Ezekiel because we're not ready to win a championship. Like, I have this whole generation of fans that believes things like that. You can't do that. You can't build a team like that. And I don't think enough people understand that in a newer generation.
Real quick, John, just because we're talking about the running back position now as a whole, like the Eagles at running back scare me a little bit, and they have so many priorities this offseason, so I'm not insinuating this, but Miles Sanders goes down. Like, what do they have? When should they start to look for another guy?
I think they will. I mean, typically they've had, and really this is the first year of the Doug Peterson era. They haven't had a committee approach. And they'll go back, and they'll certainly try to find a secondary running back and try to get that. But, that's one of those things that's more a personnel issue than anything else. I mean, the Eagles' belief is that they need two running backs. Obviously, Boston Scott has played a decent amount, but he's just not that guy. You got to be honest. So, yeah, they definitely need another running back. They brought Jordan Howard back, but he might be washed in a similar way. The way he performed in Miami, hasn't been able to do much. It got elevated the one time, but he might be washed as well. And, yeah, I mean, they definitely need another running back, but that's a position you hope to get somebody in the third, fourth round, maybe, or even later. I mean, you've seen it. The Eagles have just been bad at that type of personnel. We go back to the Donnell Pumphrey draft. You know, the Packers got Aaron Jones after Donnell Pumphrey. The Seahawks got Chris Carson in that same draft in the 7th round. So there are running backs to be had. Eagles have just not picked them.
All right, let's start to dive in here a little bit to the Eagles-Cowboys game. Jalen Hurts, you know, we've talked about player props over the past couple weeks. Do we expect another big day on the ground from Jalen Hurts? It seems like a silly question because it's only 2 games, but at this point you say, how the heck does he not have at least somewhere in the 50 to 80 yards on the ground?
Yeah, I mean, and you look at the Cowboys' defense, and just as I said, they've not had a good season as a whole as a defense, and it's gotten a little bit better from where it was, but now you have Leighton Vander Esch hurt again. Sean Lee at whatever he is, 34, 35, he's going to be back in the lineup. Yeah, they just haven't been very good defensively. So, I mean, one thing you have to look at Jalen Hurts in his first 2 games. I mean, the Eagles have been able to move the football. They've been able to score points. And he's been able to, punch in touchdowns, whether it's throwing the football, running the football. So I do think it shapes up as a high-scoring, high-yardage game, and Jalen's a big part of that.
What's the game plan for the Eagles? We can do offense and defensively, John. I mean, more of the same, right? It's pretty simple. I don't know how many options they really have, at least on offense. Then if you want to talk about how they're going to, figure out how to really be successful on the defensive side as well.
Yeah, I mean, offensively, we've talked about the playmakers. You know, it's interesting. They started Sean Jackson's practice window, which I thought caught everyone by surprise a little bit. And it is a strange week, so we'll get to talk to Doug Peterson again tomorrow. I mentioned someone will get to Deshaun at some point. It's tough in Zoom world. It's tough to waste questions. But, maybe in a situation where obviously they need to win games. And again, if Washington wins, it doesn't even matter a win. But maybe they can get him back, and maybe that changes the dynamic of the receivers because he's at least a guy who understands how to play and should be able to be where he's supposed to, and that's been too much of an issue with the young receivers. Other than that, it's going to be more of the same, and it's going to be a little bit more explosive simply because I think Jalen Hurts has been able to open up things in opposing defense with that running threat. And that sort of loosens up every defense. And you're concerned about read option, zone read, and that means you're a step slow if it is in the passing game. So that's why you've seen a little bit more success from guys like Jalen Reagor and Quez Watkins.
Eagles are 2-point favorites on DraftKings, 2.5 on BetMGM. The total is at 50.
Isn't that amazing?
It's amazing.
I don't get that.
It's because what the public bettors are doing and the recency bias factor, especially with betting, it's the Eagles with Jalen Hurts, and what have the Cowboys done lately? The average bettor doesn't see it. I mean, 75% of the public's taking the Eagles with the points, John.
Yeah, you would think. I mean, typically because Dallas is Dallas and America's team and the most popular team in football, and they're usually the ones that get a little bit of the bias. Even, they're always a little bit overrated no matter what, when they're good, bad, indifferent. And they're coming off a big offensive game themselves, and they've started. And again, as I said, they have a better record, so they've shown a little life themselves So for that reason, it's a little bit weird to me, simply because, Dallas, the New York Yankees, Notre Dame football, usually get the benefit of the doubt with those teams.
Typically, and Notre Dame certainly isn't getting any love with their line, but that's a different conversation for a different day. All right, John, so your final word here. Give me your summary, your prediction, and score prediction.
I haven't even thought about a score prediction because it is so
Fair.
early, but, I'll throw it out there. I do think it's finally going to end. So I do think Dallas is going to find a way to win the game. I think the Eagles are up against it in the secondary, and I think it's tough to be consistent with Marcus Epps out there. And even though, as I said, I think Michael Jacquet has some upside, he's still an undrafted rookie, still facing Amari Cooper and C.D. Lamb and Michael Gallup. And Andy Dalton is capable, especially if you don't rush the passer. The Eagles will be without Josh Sweat as well. He's got a wrist injury. He's not going to be able to play. But I do think it's going to be high scoring, similar to the Arizona game. It's Cowboys 30, Eagles 27.
High scoring. The over would certainly hit there. 30-27 Cowboys, says John McMullen, our NFL Eagles insider. All right, John, I want to ask you maybe about one or two other NFL questions. But before that, is there anything else that we missed on or that you want to discuss or bring up regarding the Eagles?
I did think, the one thing about getting to know Jalen Hurts over the past couple weeks, and the one thing people keep talking about him, every single teammate, is his leadership, his natural leadership ability, and that really dates back to the draft. Everyone said it to him. But he did. He used that rat poison term, which evidently comes from Nick Saban. They learned it at Alabama. And he referenced it to not listening to all the noise when it comes to the quarterback controversy, when it comes to social media. Really well-grounded kid at 20. He's a kid. He's 22 years old. It's kind of amazing how calm and cool and collected he is.
Yeah, it really is. That stood out to me as well, and you can just see it. I love how he just owns up to his mistakes in the post-game presser. This is where I went wrong. This is what I need to work on. It's a lot of guys don't do that. We didn't see that from Carson a lot this year.
No, most. It's interesting because I think as you evolve, I always say, rookies tend to be very honest, and then as they're taught sort of by the PR departments around the league and their teammates, they're taught to turn into Crash Davis from Bull Durham, if people know that analogy, talking cliches. You see it all the time. Coach speak, I got to do a better job speak, that kind of stuff. You tend to evolve into that, and we'll see if Jalen does that. He doesn't say a lot, but in every press conference, soft-spoken, he seems to throw something out there. Today, as I mentioned, it was the rat poison. Last week it was the coffee bean. Always throws a little tidbit out, and it's interesting.
That's a great point that I didn't even think of. Just getting coached up and learning how to say less and give less out to the media. All right, John, before I let you go, I want your thoughts on the Steelers because 11-0, and now they are certainly looking like a completely different team. They might not even win the AFC North at this point. They have a Week 17 matchup against Cleveland. That's going to be a must-watch game. But your thoughts on the AFC North and the Steelers right now trending in the wrong direction?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly it. I think everyone looked at that team at 11-0 and said, okay, well, they're a good team, but they're not an 11-0 team. So it was a bit of a market correction. You don't expect 3 losses in a row, and you don't expect a Cincinnati loss to a quarterback that's never won before in the NFL. That's a really bad loss. So obviously there's some issues going. It dates back to the running game. They need to get a consistent running game, and Snell was able to do things in that game a little bit later. But overall, I mean, they had abandoned the running game. If you go back to a few weeks before that, I'm not a big run-pass ratio guy. I don't think it matters that much in the modern NFL. But if you completely ignore it, like Pittsburgh was doing, I think you start to have some issues. And then the receivers, I mean, if you go back to early this season, it was just big play, big play, big play. Even rookie like Chase Claypool. Now everybody's dropping the football. So they got to figure it out, and they got to figure it out quickly. I don't think anybody thought they were a real contender when matched up with the Chiefs, and I don't think anybody is. But now it's looking like anybody on the AFC side of the bracket you would probably take over them right now in the playoffs.
There he is, Johnny Mack, our NFL Eagles insider. Follow him on Twitter at JFMcMullen, PhillyVoice.com, SI.com, host of Extending the Play, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. every Saturday. Are you? Do we have a show Saturday, or are you taking a bye week for the holiday, John?
No, it's post-Christmas.
Okay,
so,
I figured.
As far as I know, we're a go. We're a go, and we're going to have my buddy Bob Groats back. Everybody loves Bob, so it'll be an interesting show.
There you go. No fix the next 2 nights, but John has you covered Saturday morning, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. on Extending the Play for the full preview, as it will be a little bit closer than it is now to Eagles and Cowboys. John, if I don't talk to you, Merry Christmas, and look forward to talking to you Monday.
Yeah, you too, Ryan. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Enjoy the days off.
Happy Festivus. All right, John. We'll talk soon.
And air the grievances.
Amen. There he is, Johnny Mack, our NFL Eagles insider. Be sure to tune in to Extending the Play Saturday at 10 a.m. All right, 1 hour down. We're rocking. We're rolling. Taking a break to get to the top of the hour. When we come back, Conlon Farrell joins me to have some fun.